The Girl with Incredible Powers: How Lila and Emily Took Down a Secret Organization and Changed the World. Lila was an ordinary girl living in a small town in the heart of the countryside. She had long, curly brown hair that she tied up in a ponytail and big, bright hazel eyes that sparkled in the sunlight. Lila was a kind-hearted girl, always looking out for others and eager to lend a helping hand whenever she could. Despite her gentle nature, Lila was also fiercely independent. She had grown up in a single-parent household and had learned from a young age to take care of herself. Her mother, a nurse at the local hospital, worked long hours and often had to leave Lila home alone. But Lila didn't mind. She was content spending her days reading books, exploring the woods behind her house, and dreaming of adventures in far-off lands. She was a curious girl, always eager to learn new things and discover the mysteries of the world around her. As she approached her 16th birthday, Lila felt a restlessness growing inside of her. She knew that there was something more waiting for her out there, something beyond the quiet confines of her small town. She longed to break free and explore the world, to discover who she was meant to be. Little did she know that her wishes were about to come true in ways she could never have imagined. One sunny afternoon, Lila was out in her backyard tending to her mother's garden. She had always loved the smell of fresh flowers and the sight of lush greenery. As she knelt down to inspect a wilted rose bush, something strange happened. Lila felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through her body. It was like nothing she had ever experienced before. The ground beneath her feet began to vibrate, and a warm green glow enveloped her. Suddenly, the wilted rosebush sprang back to life. Its leaves turned a vibrant shade of green, and its buds began to blossom into beautiful red roses. Lila was amazed. She had never seen anything like it. Over the next few days, Lila experimented with her newfound ability. She discovered that she could make plants grow at an incredible rate, far faster than they would normally. She could coax seeds to sprout within seconds and turn barren patches of soil into lush gardens. Lila was thrilled with her superpower, but she also felt a bit overwhelmed. She didn't know what to do with this newfound ability or how to control it. She tried to keep it a secret, but it wasn't long before others began to notice. One day, Lila's neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, came over to ask for her help with her struggling tomato plants. Lila was hesitant at first, but she eventually decided to give it a try. To her amazement, the plants grew taller and healthier right before her eyes. Word of Lila's abilities soon spread throughout the town. People began to come to her for help with their gardens and farms. At first, Lila was nervous about using her powers so openly, but she soon realized how much she loved helping others and making the world a greener, more beautiful place. And so, Lila began to embrace her superpower and all the possibilities that came with it. She couldn't wait to see where her powers would take her next. As Lila's reputation grew, she began to attract more and more attention from the outside world. News of the girl who could make plants grow at lightning speed spread far and wide, and before long, reporters and scientists were knocking on her door, eager to study her abilities. At first, Lila was excited by all the attention. She loved the idea of being able to use her powers to make a real difference in the world. But as the cameras and microphones grew more invasive, she began to feel like a lab rat, constantly poked and prodded by curious strangers. One day, Lila received a strange message on her phone. It was from an unknown number, and it simply read, "You are not alone." Lila was confused. Who could be sending her such a cryptic message? She tried to brush it off, but the feeling of unease lingered. Over the next few weeks, strange things began to happen. Lila started to notice shadowy figures lurking in the corners of her vision, watching her every move. She received more strange messages, all with cryptic warnings and hints at a hidden truth. It wasn't long before Lila began to suspect that something sinister was going on. Someone or something was watching her, and they didn't have her best interests at heart. As Lila delved deeper into the mystery, she realized that her powers were not just a gift, but a curse. She had been chosen for a reason, and her abilities had put her in grave danger. With her newfound awareness and her powers at the ready, Lila vowed to uncover the truth behind the mystery and protect herself and those she loved. But as she would soon find out, the stakes were higher than she ever could have imagined, and the danger was closing in fast. Lila couldn't shake the feeling that someone was always watching her. She started to become paranoid, checking over her shoulder every time she went out in public. It didn't help that the mysterious messages kept coming, always with vague warnings and clues. Despite her fear, Lila refused to give up on discovering the truth. She spent every moment she could researching and investigating, trying to piece together the puzzle. She even used her powers to help her gather information, making plants grow at lightning speed to help her climb walls and reach high places. One day, Lila received a message that was different from all the others. It was an invitation to meet with someone who claimed to have answers to all her questions. The meeting place was a secluded spot in the woods outside of town, and the message warned her to come alone. Lila was hesitant, but her curiosity got the best of her. She decided to go to the meeting spot, hoping to finally get some answers. As she approached the meeting spot, Lila saw a figure emerge from the shadows. It was a man, tall and imposing, with piercing blue eyes and a stern expression. "Who are you?" Lila demanded, her heart pounding in her chest. The man simply smiled, a cold and calculating grin that made Lila shiver. "I am a member of a secret organization," he said. "We have been watching you, Lila. We know about your powers, and we want to help you harness them for the greater good." Lila was stunned. She had never heard of any secret organization before. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice shaking. "We want you to join us," the man said. "Together we can make the world a better place, but you have to be willing to do whatever it takes." Lila didn't know what to say. Part of her was tempted by the man's offer, but another part of her was terrified of what he was asking. "I need time to think," Lila said finally. The man nodded. "Take all the time you need. But remember, Lila, the clock is ticking." And with that, he disappeared back into the shadows, leaving Lila alone in the woods to ponder her next move. Lila couldn't shake off the eerie feeling that the man left her with. The secrecy and cryptic nature of the organization he spoke of made her wary, and the fact that they had been watching her without her knowledge only made it worse. She returned home and tried to go about her day as normal, but her mind kept going back to the man's offer. What if they could help her understand her powers better? What if she could use her abilities to make a real difference in the world? But then, the warnings from the mysterious messages came back to her. Could she really trust this organization? What did they mean by whatever it takes? Lila spent the next few days mulling over the decision. She did her own research into the organization, but found very little information. The secrecy only added to her suspicion. One night, as she was lying in bed, Lila's thoughts were interrupted by a rustling sound coming from outside. She got out of bed and peeked through her window, only to see a group of men in dark suits and sunglasses lurking outside her house. Lila's heart raced as she realized that they were the same men who had been following her before. She didn't know what they wanted, but she knew she couldn't just sit there and wait for them to make their move. Without hesitation, Lila used her powers to make the vines in her garden grow at an incredible speed, weaving them together to form a makeshift ladder. She climbed down and ran as fast as she could, not daring to look back. It wasn't until she was several blocks away that Lila finally stopped to catch her breath. She realized that she couldn't stay in her town any longer. The organization was after her, and she didn't know who she could trust. Lila made the decision to leave town, to try and start a new life where no one knew about her powers. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay in one place for too long. As she disappeared into the night, Lila couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. And more importantly, what role she would play in the unfolding of those secrets. Lila spent the next few weeks traveling, hopping from town to town and trying to stay off the radar. She didn't use her powers unless absolutely necessary, afraid that the organization might be able to track her if she did. Eventually, Lila found herself in a small town in the middle of nowhere. It was a quiet place, with friendly people and a cozy atmosphere. For the first time in a long time, Lila felt like she could breathe again. She found a job at a local plant nursery, using her powers to help the plants grow and thrive. It wasn't the most exciting job, but it was enough to keep her busy and out of trouble. Despite her efforts to lay low, Lila still felt like someone was watching her. She couldn't shake off the feeling that the organization was still out there, lurking in the shadows and waiting for the right moment to strike. One day, while she was working in the nursery, Lila received a letter. It was a handwritten note with no return address. "Dear Lila," the letter read, "I know who you are, and I know what you can do. But don't be afraid. I'm not with the organization. I'm here to help you." Lila was skeptical, but curious. She decided to follow the instructions in the letter, which told her to go to a specific location in the woods outside of town. As she made her way through the trees, Lila felt a sense of déjà vu. It reminded her of the first time she had met the man from the organization, and she couldn't help but feel like she was walking into a trap. But when she arrived at the designated spot, she found someone unexpected waiting for her. It was a woman around her own age with long brown hair and a warm smile. "I'm Emily," the woman said, holding out her hand. "I've been looking for you." Lila was surprised, but also relieved. Emily seemed kind and genuine, and there was something in her eyes that made Lila feel like she could trust her. "I got your letter," Lila said. "What do you want from me?" "I don't want anything from you," Emily said. "I just want to help. I know what it's like to feel alone and scared, and I don't want you to have to go through that anymore." Lila was taken aback. She had never met someone who seemed to understand her so well. "What do you suggest we do?" Lila asked. "Let's start by figuring out what the organization wants from you," Emily said. "We can work together to uncover their secrets and hopefully put a stop to them once and for all." Lila knew it was a risky move, but she also knew that she couldn't keep running forever. She made the decision to trust Emily and to face the organization head-on. Little did she know, the journey ahead of her would be filled with danger, excitement, and more surprises than she ever could have imagined. Over the next few days, Lila and Emily met regularly to discuss their plan of action. Emily revealed that she was part of a small group of individuals who had been monitoring the organization for years, trying to uncover their secrets and stop their nefarious activities. Emily's group had discovered that the organization was interested in Lila's powers because they believed that they could be used to create a powerful new weapon. They were conducting experiments on other people with unique abilities, trying to harness their powers for their own gain. Lila was horrified by what she heard, and she knew that she had to do something to stop them. With Emily's help, she began to train her powers, honing her abilities to be more precise and powerful than ever before. They also worked on a plan to infiltrate the organization's headquarters, gather evidence, and expose their true intentions to the world. It was risky, but Lila was determined to see it through. Finally, the day of the operation arrived. Lila and Emily donned disguises and made their way to the organization's heavily guarded compound. Using her powers, Lila was able to get past the guards and make her way inside. What she found there was even worse than she had imagined. The organization's scientists were conducting brutal experiments on innocent people, trying to create a new kind of super soldier. The screams of the victims echoed through the halls, and Lila knew that she had to act fast. She and Emily worked quickly, gathering as much evidence as they could and destroying the organization's equipment before they fled the compound. They knew that it was only a matter of time before the organization would come after them, but they were determined to make sure that the world knew the truth about what was happening. Back in their safe house, Lila and Emily compiled their evidence and sent it to every major news outlet they could think of. Within hours, the story was all over the internet. The public was outraged, and calls for the organization to be brought to justice grew louder by the minute. It wasn't long before the authorities stepped in, raiding the organization's compound and arresting everyone involved. Lila and Emily were hailed as heroes, and their story became the talk of the town. For Lila, it was a bittersweet victory. She had achieved her goal of stopping the organization, but at a great cost. The trauma of what she had seen and experienced would stay with her for a long time to come. But she also knew that she had found a true friend in Emily, someone who had stood by her side through it all. And with that knowledge, Lila felt that she could face anything that the future might hold. In the aftermath of their victory against the organization, Lila and Emily received a flood of messages from people all over the world, thanking them for their bravery and their willingness to stand up to evil. The two of them became celebrities overnight, and they were invited to speak at conferences and events all over the globe. Lila was amazed at the impact that she and Emily had had on the world. She had always felt like an outsider because of her powers, but now she was being celebrated for them. People looked up to her and saw her as a symbol of hope and strength. With Emily by her side, Lila continued to use her powers to make the world a better place. They worked with environmental organizations to plant trees and restore damaged ecosystems, and they volunteered at shelters and soup kitchens to help those in need. In her free time, Lila continued to explore the limits of her powers, experimenting with different types of plants and discovering new ways to use her abilities. She felt like she had finally found her place in the world, and she was excited to see where her journey would take her next. As for Emily, she became Lila's closest friend and ally. They were inseparable, and Lila knew that she could always count on Emily to have her back. They traveled together, worked together, and faced new challenges together, and their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Years later, Lila looked back on her journey and marveled at how far she had come. She had started out as a lonely girl with a strange power, but she had ended up changing the world for the better. And it was all thanks to the friendship and courage of one remarkable woman, Emily.